courage, compassion, faith, freedom, truth. It's time for courage in the darkness with the host, Phil Roberts. Awakening America to the indoctrination and radicalization. Let's get into it.
The ground beneath Washington, D.C. just shifted, and the entire permanent bureaucratic class is in a state of absolute panic. The Supreme Court just handed down what is undeniably the biggest ruling of our generation. They have officially struck down Chevron Deference. For 40 years, this single obscure legal doctrine acted as a concrete foundation for the unaccountable fourth branch of government. It was the tool that allowed unelected bureaucrats at the EPA, the ATF, and the SEC, and the Department of Labor to write their own laws, enforce their own rules, and then act as the judge and jury when they came after you. The media is already running wall-to-wall coverage, calling this a catastrophe for public safety, and, of course, a threat to democracy. They're lying to you because they're terrified. The ruling is not a crisis. It's an eviction notice for the deep state. It is the most significant restoration of constitutional balance and citizen sovereignty since the founding of the Republic. The highest court in the land has finally stated the obvious. Unelected bureaucrats do not have the right to interpret the law. That power belongs to the courts. And the power to make the laws belongs strictly to the people you actually vote for. The era of the bureaucratic blank check is officially dead. To understand why this ruling is a massive victory for common sense, you have to understand the racket they've been running since 1984. Under Chevron Deference, if Congress passed a vague law, the federal agencies were allowed to interpret what that law meant. And as long as their interpretation was considered reasonable, federal judges were forced by law to bow to the agency's expertise. Think about how corrupt that system was. It meant that if the EPA decided your backyard pond was a navigable waterway, or if the ATF decided a piece of plastic was a machine gun, a federal judge couldn't use their own legal judgment to protect you. They had to defer to the bureaucrats. This created a monster. It allowed successive administrations to implement radical agendas that can never pass through Congress. The Green New Deal wasn't enacted by your representatives. It was being forced down your throat through thousands of pages of EPA mandates. The assault on your Second Amendment rights wasn't happening through legislation. It was happening through ATF rule changes. Chevron Deference turned Congress into a theatrical stage and handed the real power of the nation over to an elite cartel of lifelong Washington desk jockeys who never had to face a single voter. By crushing this doctrine, the Supreme Court has stripped these agencies of their camouflage. If a bureaucrat wants to regulate your business, your land, or your daily life, they now have to point an explicit law passed by Congress, not a rule that they invented during Tuesday morning's staff meeting. The left is screaming that without Chevron, the government won't be able to function. They want you to believe that corporations are going to poison the water tomorrow and the sky is going to fall because a bunch of DC lawyers lost their ultimate weapon. But I want you to look at what this actually means for the American family and the working class. This ruling takes the target off the back of the small business owner, the rancher, the truck driver, and the independent worker. For decades, the professional left has used the protest industrial complex to lobby these federal agencies. When they couldn't win an election, they would get an activist appointed to a high-level position inside a federal bureau. And that activist would instantly write a new regulation targeting traditional American industries, the nuclear family, or parental rights. They used the bureaucracy to pass the constitutional firewall. They wanted a country governed by managed expertise rather than local self-governance. They wanted a system where a dad standing up at a school board meeting or a farmer trying to manage his own land could be buried under federal lawsuits and fines by an agency that answered to no one. That structure is fracturing. This ruling forces the political battle back into the light of day. If the radical left wants to implement a policy that forces you into an electric vehicle or takes away your parental authority or shuts down American energy, they have to go to Congress. They have to put their name on a bill, debate it in the open, and take a vote that you can hold them accountable for at the ballot box. They hate this ruling because they despise accountability. They're terrified of a system where the citizens hold the remote control. The demolition of Chevron Deference proves that the tide is turning. The institutions that the globalist elite built to manage and silence the American people are being dismantled piece by piece. It's a reminder that the Constitution is not an outdated living document to be rewritten by bureaucrats. It is a rigid shield designed to protect your liberty from the government itself. Don't let the media's manufactured panic distort the truth today. This is a day for celebration. It's a day where the rule of law conquered the rule of elite. The permanent bureaucracy lost its armor last night because the highest court in the land remembered that in this republic, the power stays with the people who do the work, pay the taxes, and fly the flag. Keep your eyes on the data. Keep holding the line in your local communities, and never apologize for demanding an America that answers to its citizens. Stand with me, support the mission, refuse the silence. I'll see you next time.